That's what I did when I saw the price of the latest Sony BRAVIA 8 Mark II. It's absolutely insane to pay $4,000 for a 65-inch TV. I get it. Some people say, hey, remember, plasma TVs back then. I have a Pioneer Kuro that used to cost like $8,000. Today's money, that would be over $10,000. But we are not in 2008 anymore. So the situation has completely changed. And now you can get a far superior Samsung S95F for less money. Why is the S95F superior to this BRAVIA 8 Mark II? Well, because it is 165 Hertz. This one is only 120 Hertz. Now, the problem also I have with these BRAVIA 8 Mark II is that you cannot turn off dimming. In any of these Sony TVs, you can turn off the ASBL dimming on the service menu, like you can do with LG and Samsung. That's a deal breaker to me, because when you're playing a game with HUD elements, you're gonna have to deal with dimming. The whole screen is gonna start dimming, and that is just, it's a deal breaker. I mean, I can turn that dimming off even on my LG C1, so that is just a no-go. Sony has to give the option to turn off that dimming, or I would never buy a Sony TV. It's that simple. So the thing is, even when this 120 Hertz and the dimming issue that I'm talking about, also tone mapping, this doesn't have HDIG as far as I know. Any Sony TV, no Sony TV has HDIG. I don't understand why, because Sony knows how to do that. That's what the reference monitor does. So HDIG is gonna give you the most accurate HDR, supposed to give you the most accurate HDR for gaming, where you can change the sliders on the game to be as bright as your TV. So you don't have that on these Sony TVs, unfortunately. I don't know if they change it here on this BRAVIA 8 Mark II. Let me know if you know if that was included. But if it's not included, that's another deal breaker to me. The tone mapping on the A95L is something very weird. It's like 4,000 nits target, but if you set the games to 4,000 nits, then you get clipping. It looks blown out, so it's a mess. You have to set it to like 1750, and then it's clipping at 4,000. It's something weird that makes no sense. So HDR tone mapping is kind of messed up. So, but the thing is, that's the bad part. Price, refresh rate, dimming, no HDIG also. If you compare these with Samsung has Game Motion Plus, which is low latency motion interpolation for gaming and for the PS5 or even PC gaming. I use it with my 5090 PC. That's a great feature to have. But aside from that, we're talking about a glossy QD OLED that is supposed to be a little bit brighter than the S90F. So if you cannot deal with a matte finish on the S95F and you don't want to remove it, which you can do, by the way, you can remove the matte finish of these Samsung QD OLEDs. It has been done. Many people have sent me pictures and videos of them removing the matte finish, especially on monitors. People are removing the matte finish even on glossy QD OLED monitors, but also with TVs. Some people send me pictures and videos with TVs. So it can be done. But if you're not going to do that and you cannot, you hate the matte finish like I do, then this is the only latest generation QD OLED with a glossy, semi-glossy finish. It's not perfectly glossy. I mean, even if I compare that with the last year's BRAVIA 8, which is a WRGB OLED, it's not. I mean, you can clearly see the reflections in here, and on this one, is your struggle to see the reflections. So this is semi-glossy coating, which it's not terrible, but I'm not a big fan of this. I much rather have a perfect mirror. The glossier, the better. Why? Because I'm gonna be in a dark room anyway, so I don't care about anything, suppressing reflections. I much rather have these. This looks more clear, but of course the difference between WRGB and QD OLED is just absolutely, I mean, it's not even close. It's not even close. But the thing is, this is the latest generation QD OLED panel. I don't understand why Sony is restricting the brightness when they are asking for $4,000. They have to be brighter than the S95F, or at least match the brightness when the refresh rate is 120 Hertz. So they cannot compete on the refresh rate. That's going to greatly put it at a disadvantage when it comes to motion clarity and input lag versus the S95F. So if they cannot compete on that, they have to at least be as bright, and they are not. But again, if you cannot remove the matte finish, you cannot deal with it, this is the only glossy latest generation QD OLED, and it looks fantastic. And let me tell you this, if you are at the store and you compare this BRAVIA 8 Mark II with the S95F, this one might look brighter. And the reason is, for some reason, in this store at least, they are lowering the brightness of the S95F because it's making the rest of the TVs look bad. So they gave me the control last time I came here, and I maxed out the brightness of the S95F, and the difference was just absolutely enormous. But they didn't have the BRAVIA 8 Mark II when I came here last time. So don't judge how bright this is in comparison with the S95F unless you get a remote in your hand and you make sure they are both maxed out. So right now it looks actually brighter than the S95F, but I know I know why. But this is not brighter. So it's not brighter, it is slower, it's 120 Hertz, it has dimming, it doesn't have motion interpolation, low latency motion interpolation for gaming like Samsung does with Game Motion Plus. You cannot get more brightness on the service menu. That's another reason to get a Samsung TV. The Samsung TV, you go to the service menu, you can get even more brightness. You can get 4,000 nits peak brightness. That's amazing. So you cannot do that with these TVs, and those things are very, very important to me. But the biggest problem, because all of that might be, that's just for you, for enthusiasts. Look, this is a problem for everyone. Just way too much. It makes no sense. I bought two 65-inch QD OLEDs last year for $2,200. I paid $1,000, one of these, $1,000 for an S90C 65-inch QD OLED, and then $1,200 for an S90D 65-inch QD OLED. And they look fantastic. And they are 144 Hertz, faster than this. They have Samsung Game Motion Plus, they are glossy too, and they have a bunch of settings on the service menu to fine-tune the near black, visibility, the tone mapping, EOTF tracking, everything. Now, this is a much brighter TV, and it's not even close, let me tell you. This is much more brighter, and If you ask me, hey, would you change your S90C for this? I would say yes. Yes, because I have one S90D, so for 144 and gaming, I would use that, and then this one will be for movies for the family. This is a lot brighter, let me tell you. It looks fantastic, don't get me wrong. I'm looking at that red right now. My camera cannot show you what I see in front of me. It is super, I mean, of course, this is vivid mode. I would not use these settings, but I know what I'm looking at. This vivid mode, and I'm just looking at how saturated and how bright the colors get. It's amazing. Okay, don't get me wrong. The shadow detail, the powerful, vibrant, bright colors. It's just incredible. This TV looks amazing. Don't get me wrong. Let's get that clear. You take this home to a dark room, and you're gonna be blown away. You're gonna be here in the comment section defending Sony, being like, no bro, you have to get one, this is amazing. Of course it's amazing, bro, of course it is. The thing is, and I'm changing my camera settings sometimes so you see the shadow detail, because my camera cannot show you this. It's too bright. So if I lower the gain, then I'm crushing black, so it's impossible to record this. But the thing is, if you go absolutely nuts and spend $4,000 on this TV, if you don't play PC games, if you just to watch movies and all of that, you're gonna be blown away. Okay. Now the thing is, I don't know how the tone mapping of this Sony TV is going to work, because here's the thing. If the movie is not, like, let's say, it's not perfect for the tone mapping of the TV, you don't get the maximum peak brightness, you don't get all the performance, unless the TV is using some kind of dynamic tone mapping, which it probably is. So you might not see, so my point here is, you might not see a big difference between this TV and a Samsung S90C, for example. When you should definitely see a huge difference. So if you don't, it's because the content is not, and I'm talking about HDR. For SDR, you don't get this TV for SDR, okay? Accurate SDR is not going to use the full capabilities of these TVs. So it makes no sense. So I'm only talking about HDR. So for HDR, if you don't see a big difference between this and something like S95B, S90C, is because the content is not maxing out. It's not proper for the tone mapping, or the tone mapping of the TV is not pushing all the brightness. But with the right content, this should be absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I'm looking at it in front of me right now with this content, which is not great. This is probably juiced up SDR content. I don't know. It looks great. It looks great. But I would like to take it home to, use test patterns to see how good it is near black. You see, here's the thing. I'm going to finish with this idea. The only way Sony can justify this insane price that makes no sense is if they guarantee you that near black, this panel is just way better calibrated than the competition. If they guarantee you that thanks to the factory calibration or whatever they do with their system, they guarantee you that the near black uniformity is going to be way better than the competition. Guaranteed, like there's no lottery. Like if Sony can advertise and say, hey, yes, we are more expensive, and the reason is we choose the panels or we calibrate them so you get the best near black uniformity and performance of any QD OLED TV. If they guarantee that, then that price can be justified a little bit better. Because if you are not better, if you're not faster than the competition, You're 120 hertz, the competition is 165. If you don't have all the gaming features, if you have dimming, if you don't allow for people to get more brightness, so it's too many downsides, and then you want to charge more money. You need to be better at something. You need to, if you're premium, you need to offer something premium like that. But I don't see them advertising that, so I would like to take this home and check it out near black and see, okay, how is the near black performance? Because if it is far superior than the S95F, then it would be a very good selling point. But still, the tone mapping needs to be HDIG. If they don't have HDIG tone mapping, it's just not. It makes no sense, because Sony knows how to do that. So I don't know why they wouldn't offer HDIG. But maybe they do. Let me know if you know if Sony improved that. I would need to take it home, use test patterns and all of that. I cannot tell just by looking at it at the store. So yeah, but it looks amazing, I have to tell you. And in comparison with the WRGB from last year, it's not even close. Every single example you look at here, it's just, I mean, ferocious. It's amazing. This TV looks absolutely incredible. But I would not recommend it. I would not buy it ever until Sony fixes and offers all of that. So what does Sony have to do? Let's finish with that. What does Sony have to do to ask for this much money, and me being like, okay, if you want the best, you have to pay more? Well, Sony, this TV would need to be 240 hertz. So if you're asking for more, you need to be more, not less, and not the same. So the same is not going to cut it, because if you're the same, you're not going to charge more money just because you are Sony. Okay, so Sony, to charge this amount, this much, right now, would need to be 240 hertz. Okay, that would be a great selling point. Would need to have HDIG, allowed to turn off ASBL dimming to protect over time. You need to let me turn that off. Be a glossy finish, have more gaming features, have all your 4 HDMI ports to be 2.1, and they are not, only 2 of them are 2.1. And they would need to have, low latency motion interpolation for gaming like Samsung does. And they would need to have all the settings to calibrate near black, better screen uniformity than the competition, guaranteed by factory calibration. So if they offer all of that, oh yeah, I don't care. Hey, you have to pay for it. You want the best, you have to pay for it. But this, with all the downsides that I'm mentioning, this is not worth more than the competition. Why? Because it is not better. Just because you're Sony, that doesn't mean you are better. Okay, I'm looking at the product, not the name, the brand. I don't care about the brand. But yeah, it's great. It still looks great, but it's just not worth that much, in my opinion. They need to cut that price 60% off minimum, in my opinion. But yeah, let's leave it there. It looks amazing. So forget about what my camera can show you here. My camera cannot show you anything. I mean, it's just clipping. Everything is clipping and looking blown out. Shadow detail is crushing. My camera cannot show you this. TV looks absolutely amazing, even with this vivid mode settings, which I don't like. And the coating is glossy, but it's not. You see, it is glossy, but it's not as glossy as these. So this one from last year, look at how glossy that is. This is not as glossy, and it still have that magenta tint of QD OLEDs. But it's great. So let's leave it there. Let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if you have any questions.